So let's know the page element in details. So page element is the fundamental element that contains all other elements inside it. So when you create a new page, the page element will be available to you by default. If you click on the page element, this will bring the property editor. Now let's go through the property editor for the page. First is the page title. Page title is where you define the title of the page. Now we have two titles to define in a page. One is the page title, one other is the title for the SEO. These two are different because page title is the title that will be shown here on the tab. Now the next is the option to check whether this page is a native app. So what is a native app? Native app is an app like an iOS or an Android app that you use on your phone. You can define the particular page as a native app and then you can publish the particular app to the App Store. Now this is not a straightforward process, but what Bubble helps you here is that when you define the page as a native app, you can design the page as per the mobile guidelines. If you click on this, you will see there is a pop-up with a message saying that these are the things that you should keep in mind while you design the page from now onwards. Since we are building a web app, so we don't need this option to be checked. So I will uncheck this. Next is the mobile version. So mobile version is where you define if this particular page has a separate mobile version compared to the desktop version. So you have two versions that you are maintaining for one page. Let me give you an example. We are at the index page. If you preview this index page, you can see a blank page and the URL is version-test. For the sake of example, I am defining the reset password page as a mobile version of the index page. Let's see how the reset password page looks like. So this is our reset password page. It has a text and there's a form. Now go to the index page, open the property editor. So we have defined the reset password page as the mobile version of the index page. So what this will do is when you load your page on a desktop environment, this will be loading the index page. If you load your page on a mobile device, on a mobile screen size, let's say this is a mobile screen size, I reload this page. Now Bubble will serve the mobile page, which is the reset password page. So this is how you define a mobile version of a particular page. Notice that the URL did not change. That means it is still loading the original URL of the page, whereas the mobile version that you defined in the Bubble editor, that will be loaded inside the HTML environment. With the launch of Responsive Engine, you don't need to define a separate mobile version unless you have a very specific design which you want to render to the mobile users. You can define only one page and you can design it in a responsive way so that it fits all of the mobile device screen sizes. We will discover the responsive design later in this course, but for now you know how to define a mobile version. So let me just click on the blank space over here. So this will clear the selection. Now next is the type of content. Type of content is basically you are telling Bubble that this page belongs to a particular data type that is already set in the database. So let's say in this database you have different data types like user, you might have a data type like a property for an Airbnb like site, or you might have a data type for so whatever the data type that you have in this database, you can define them यार निकल तो है. So next is type of content. Type of content is where you tell Bubble that this particular page belongs to a particular data type, meaning to say all the primary meaning to say the primary purpose of this page is to serve elements based on the particular data type. Now data types are the things that you define inside the data tab, and you can select them over here. Let me give you an example. So this is an Airbnb application. We will discuss how to design an application like this as part of this course. But for now, let me show you how this looks like. So I have a property listing page where it lists different properties, or I call them room. And if I click on a particular room, it will take me to the details of that room. You can see the details of the room here. In the Bubble editor, what happens is, if I click on this particular thing, I have defined a workflow. If you go to the workflow, you can see when this particular group is clicked, I'm sending the user to the single listing page, and the data I'm sending is the current sales room. So room is the data type here, which is defined under data. You can see the room data type, and under app data, you can see the room details. So I'm sending the data to the page single listing. Now if I go to the single listing page, and if I click on the page element, you can see the type of content is room. I have all the option to choose from, and the type of content that I have chosen is room, because the room data type is the primary data type for this page. And if you don't do that, let's say I clear the selection. Now if I go to the property listing page, and let me go to the workflows. Let me click on this. So here, as you can see, there is an error message that is showing because the data that we are sending to this page does not conform to this page data type or the type of content that particular page expects us to send. As soon as I change the page type of content to room, the error will go away. So go to the rooms design section, click on the particular page element and choose from the type of content as room. And now if I go to the property listing page and go to the workflow, and if I see this, now the error has gone. So this is a brief introduction to what is type of content for a particular page, but as you work on a project, you will learn it in much more detail. So let's go back to our page element. So now you have a basic idea what type of content is. Next is the style attribute. Style attribute is where you define the style for the page. So for now, there is no style as defined by default. You can create a new style. If I click on create a new style, you can define the style name and you can define the element type as page and use the style for this particular page, or you can choose for any other page. And once I do that, let's say test style, I'll click on create. Now I can click on styles and go to that style that we just created. I can search by the name test style, and as you can see, there are some options that is available for you to set. So if I set a background color like this, now if I go to the page and load this page, you can see a background color is applied on this page. So since we are not defining anything now, so I'll choose this to none, and let me delete this style because we don't need this. Now let's go to here. Since we have selected the style in the style properties, that style has been applied to the style properties under background style and background color in this property editor, but let me choose this to none. Next is the opacity of the page, where you can define the opacity that is visible to the user. And then the next one is the background style. We saw a brief demo of the background style just now, but here you can choose, let's say you can choose a background style as a background color, and this color will be applicable to the entire page background. You can also choose a gradient. So when you choose a gradient, you have the option to choose between linear or radial gradient. You can define the direction of the gradient. You can define the start and end color of the gradient. So let me define the start and end color. So let's say the start color is this and the end color is this. Now if I refresh this page, you can see a gradient applied onto this page. So next background style is image, where you can define a background image for your page. You can define a repeating image or you can define a single image as well. So let me choose an image and show you how it looks. So let me click on upload, choose a background image. So I have a background image like this and I want to apply this to the page. So let me select this image. As you can see, the image is now applied to the page, but since it's a small image, it is now visible only in one corner of this page. So if I refresh this page, you can see the image is applied only to a certain portion of the page, but I want this image to be shown as a background of the entire page. So what I'll do is I'll go here and choose repeat this image vertically and horizontally. Now if I reload this page, now this background is filled with the image. So this is how you define a repeating image for your page. You have the option to make this image wide as the parent element, but what it will do is it will stretch the image to fill the parent element, so it will look like this. You can center the image, which will center the image horizontally, and you can define a background color if it is empty, and you can apply a parallax effect. So let me show you how a parallax effect looks like. Remember that this is desktop only, so let me clear this image and upload a new image. So this image I will upload now, and then I will apply a parallax effect. Let me keep the speed as the default one, and now I will draw a text element onto the page and I will write something. Now if I refresh this page, you can see the image in the background and the text in the foreground. Now if I try to scroll this, see how the text scrolls with a parallax effect. And if I turn this off, let's say I turn this off, and now I refresh this page. Now if I scroll, the entire thing scrolls up. There is no parallax effect. So this is how you apply parallax effect onto the page. Next thing is apply a background style of video. By default, Bubble gives you a sample video. So if I refresh this page, you can see a video. You can define on your own video by choosing from the local computer, or you can define a video from a dynamic link. So this is how you set the background style. Next is the title and description for SEO. So this is the title that we discussed earlier. This will go into the search engine, and description is the meta description. This will be also for the search engine. When you are searching for a keyword and your website shows up in the search results, this description will likely be shown up by Google. Next is the image for Facebook. This is a sharing image. When someone shares your page in Facebook, the default image will be taken automatically. But if you define a particular image here, this particular image will be shown when someone is sharing your website on Facebook. Next is the page HTML header. So here there is an option to write an HTML code which will go into the header of this page. So if you click on the HTML editor, it will open up a screen where you can type some HTML code which you can save to the page header. Typically this is used when you are trying to add some analytics to the page, or any JavaScript code that you want to execute on the header of the page. You can write it here. Next is the page folder. This is where you organize your page in a particular folder. So these are the properties of page element. Layout is where you define how the page layout will be. By default, it is the fixed layout. If you want to define a responsive layout, then you can define using any of these three options. So align to parent is where your elements will be aligned to the top of the page element, the nearest parent element that they have. Row and column is where you define whether the elements will be arranged in a row or in a column. We will discuss these in much details when we are going through the responsive design tutorial, but for now let me keep it fixed. Next is the conditional tab, where you define the conditions that you want to execute. So this is all about the page element and how you can define different attributes of a page element.